Hi, and welcome to Come Alive with us. Today we have Colin Jordan, and I'm so excited to have Colin on. He is the CEO and founder of Kadre Marketing. He also has a podcast called The Truth About Marketing. And Colin and I go back to when I was living in San Francisco. He was working at a corporate company, and he tried to recruit me. I didn't end up, with that position, but we've been friends ever since. And was actually on his podcast. And so, Colin, it's great to see you and have you on.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a pleasure.
Yes. So, Colin, if you could just give our listeners a little bit of background about yourself, where you're at right now, and just a little bit of background.
Absolutely. So I was born and raised in the Bay Area. As you mentioned, that's where we met. Lived there till I went to college, went to the University of Arizona, studied communications. So continued to be kind of right in this marketing wheelhouse. Loved it there, but ultimately just wanted to go back. I love technology, again, being around it my whole childhood. So went back and got a job in Silicon Valley. My first one was with a boutique kind of PR agency up in San Francisco. And actually from there, one of my clients that I had really kind of a lot of success with was starting their team in-house. And so they kind of poached me from the agency. They were like, hey, love your work, love everything you do. Can you come in and help us start, our own kind of corporate marketing team in-house? And that company was called Ignite, EGNYTE. So they do like cloud storage, collaboration, data governance now. But yeah, I did that. I was with them for 8 years. Did everything for them from, started with just kind of PR, media relations, then built up and was, director of corporate communications, then corporate marketing, and built everything there. I was like one of the first 100 employees. And then when I left, there was probably close to 900 employees globally. So yeah, that was really cool evolution to just be part of something like that, that grew from, Series B all the way up to what they are now. That is a punk company that, just recently they filed or supposedly they hired a bank to help them go through an IPO. So really exciting stuff. And then, I dabbled a little bit. I got an offer to go be a CEO at a Web3 company, the whole blockchain, kind of web apps and things like that. I went and did that for a year. Super exciting, interesting opportunity, but ultimately just didn't end up being something that I was really passionate about. The market and everything that goes along with it. There's a lot of shady stuff that goes on. So ended up pulling out of that and starting my own marketing agency because I was back to doing something that I'm really passionate about and helping companies build and grow. And yeah, that's where we are now.
Yes, amazing. Well, that's quite the trajectory. So
Yeah.
good for you.
Yeah. It's been a long. It's crazy how time flies because people are like, oh, how long have you been doing this? And I'm like, oh man, 15 years. Like, where did
Right.
time go?
I know, right? It makes you feel a little old. I feel that.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's dive into a lightning round and then we'll get a little bit deeper into the questions.
Yeah.
First and foremost, can you name a book or resource that has had a profound influence on your approach to leadership?
As far as leadership goes, I really kind of look towards people. I mean, I love reading and whatnot, but my big thing is people. And there's been a couple in my life that I, lean on quite heavily. I have my guy Tad, who is someone that I've just been very close with. Met him at Ignite, and he's kind of been like a business entrepreneur type that helps me with a lot of stuff. And then Ethan Parker, who Ethan started Treble PR, and he's out in Austin, Texas. He was my mentor starting all the way back at the PR agency when that was my first job, right? And we just talk all things PR and communications ever since, and he's brilliant.
I love that. So who is your favorite authentic leader and why?
My favorite leaders, again, I try not to like pick one or two, but my favorite leaders are always the ones that are just like real and authentic, right? So these people that put themselves out there, they're different, like they don't keep, and I'll actually tell you the difference. My opposite is kind of like, you see your like, Andy Elliott's and like Grant Cardone's and all these guys. It's like they're all like replica images of each other and they say the same thing and they're selling the same vision. So there's a guy, Dan Fleischman. Now, while he works with them and whatnot, Dan is an amazingly different thinker in the way that he's always doing things and leading people. he genuinely wants like the best for his people and is very good about like charitable and giving and things like that also. So like Dan, it's one of those weird things where like he does so much and he's so successful, but he honestly like the money's not what he's in it for, right? And I really love that about him.
I love that. That's amazing. And then how would you define authenticity in the context of leadership?
100% authenticity is doing what you believe in no matter what people's reactions are going to be. And today it's so hard because the polarity of the internet and the way that people are, like, you may think that you're like shutting off half your audience. One of the funniest things, and I allude to it a lot, is the whole idea of, being unapologetically yourself, which again, it may not be the person himself isn't a great reference, but the story is. And that somebody who did that was Howard Stern, right? Like Howard Stern was unapologetically himself all the time. And one of the best scenes from his movie, and I think about it all the time, is they're trying to figure out like how to get him off the radio because the network is keeps getting in trouble, keeps getting all these things. And they said, yeah, but the people love him. And he's like, I don't get it. Like everybody's saying that they hate him. And they said, yeah, but people are listening, a lot. And so he said, the average person that loves Howard Stern listens for an hour and a half because they want to hear, number one reason, they want to hear what he's going to say next. The average person that hates Howard Stern listens for 2.5 hours. And they're like, what? And it said, number one reason, they want to hear what he's going to say next. Right. So the whole idea is that Howard Stern was going to be him, do himself, and be unapologetically him. And actually, the people that hated him listened more than the people that liked him. Right. So like those leaders,
Right?
yeah, and those leaders and those people, in my opinion, they always end up being the most successful.
Yeah. Being unapologetically yourself. I love
Yep.
that. And what's one daily habit that can set leaders up for success?
I think journaling. I'm a huge fan of journaling. It just helps you get things out. And while there's all these thoughts going on in your head, just getting it out on paper for some reason in my mind, like not only is there like some sort of like stress or anxiety release if there's things that are on your mind, but then also it helps you look back and it's like, hey, what was going on in this week or that week or what, what I mean? And then sometimes when you're productive, sometimes when you're unproductive, you can look back at your thoughts and kind of figure out like where you were at and why that was going on.
Yeah, it's great for reflection and just, being able to, like you said, see where you were in the moment versus where you are now. I love that. I'm a
Absolutely.
big fan too. So diving a little deeper, you went into your background, you've worked at corporations, you've worked at startups, you now have your own company. What are some of the things that you've had to like adapt to and some of the lessons that you've learned along the way, being in all of those different environments?
I mean, there's been a million,
I'm
right?
sure.
Yeah. So everything from being a part of a team to building my own, like I think some of the best lessons as far as being a leader is being good to your people, being good to people that you work with. And it's never easy, right? There's times where you butt heads or it's just again, it could be a client, it could be a colleague, it could be someone that you hired, it could be an intern, like whatever that is. It's just been so eye-opening to me how much it matters, right? When people, their perspective of you and as they carry on because of just the network effect that it has, right? Again, whether it was an employee, a customer, a partner, whoever, I've had tons of opportunities that have come back to me just because of word of mouth of people saying like, oh yeah, we worked with Colin, like he was great, or we worked with someone on Colin's team and they were great, whatever that is. So for me, I think a very important piece is to always just be treating people as kindly as possible, giving them your best effort. Because even if it doesn't work out, things, budgets, things like that stuff you can't control, even I had one client recently that was like, dude, everything's been great. We've done a tremendous amount of work together. You're in a much better position than when you started. But yeah, I get it. Some of these ads, some of these things, like chances we took didn't really work out. So you want to go in another direction, that's fine. But we were clear. We finished on a good note. There was nothing contentious. And again, like knock on wood, I've been in business now, like my own business now. It's been about a year and a half and never really had an issue with the client, never had an issue of like anybody like legal this or like any disputes or everything. If there was a client that left, it ended on good terms. Like I think it's just that's a really important piece of it. because you can end up, and I've seen it with friends, one client, one thing can torch you, right? Beyond just like the legal battle or the, just messiness that creates and the time and resources and energy that it takes away from your business. But then they go and leave and tell everybody that they know about how horrible it was and this and that. So like I just think your relationships with people are so important.
They so are, it's crucial. And to your point, just word of mouth and maintaining your reputation and all of that is pivotal. So what are some ways that you encourage creativity and innovation within your teams?
It's funny because people say, "Oh, that's like you're kind of copying people." It's not. So creativity and innovation to me is more about seeing like what is out there and what works, and then like making it better, making your own version of yours, right? So I think it's really interesting, and I have this conversation a lot with people because I thought I was a creative person. I still think that I'm like innovative and fresh, but I don't consider myself a true creative, right? Like I've worked with some really amazing content people that, like I said, they'll come out with some of like the most unique individual ideas, but everything that I talk to them about, they're like, listen, those same people who are creative and unique, they're getting muses and they're learning, or they're pulling ideas from everything that they see. It's not like they're just sitting in a dark room and an idea comes to them. They're like, you have to foster that creativity and innovation by looking around. What's out there? What's making you feel something? Like go for that walk. Go look for some. I mean, you could search things on the internet and just be like, hey, maybe like start with what are some other things that people have done in this kind of realm of what you're trying to create, and then go out and look, and that's fine. You got kind of a base, you got something in your head, and then you just need to go look for muses, look for. So I think what I've said to like our team is I always want everybody to bring as many ideas as possible. And I know it's kind of cliche of there are no bad ideas. The ideas the ideas themselves may be not great, but like they may lead you to something else. Or like, when we're all sitting there brainstorming as a team. So to kind of pull it back in, the two things that I are really important for me is that I tell people, or especially my team, like go out and look everywhere. You never know when you're going to find your next good idea. Again, something as remedial or childish as like a squatty potty could give you the next kind of spark for your, very serious B2B tech company. And the other thing is, right, when we come together, when we brainstorm, when we do these kind of creativity sessions, there are no bad ideas. Let it all fly. Like it doesn't matter how stupid or how silly or how you think it is. It could end up leading to the next big, great idea that could go viral. So I always want, everybody to just be willing and able and free to share. And it goes back to a little bit about the respect your people. Like don't make them feel stupid for sharing an idea. It doesn't matter. Like we all got dumb ideas. Just shoot.
Yeah, and I think you're totally right. There's no dumb ideas, and it's just, thought fodder to encourage even, different ideas and expand new conversations. Do you have an example of maybe a time when one of your teammates or yourself, had a creative idea and it turned into a really positive outcome?
Yeah, I mean, we have a client right now that so they're in a little bit of a, I would call it boring industry in the sense that it's real estate accounting, right? So it's very
Okay.
neat. But again, that's our job to make it exciting, to make them stand out. So they came to us saying, "Hey, look, we really want to like start some marketing efforts that pull us out, like make us a little bit more differentiated from some of these other people." Well, one of the guys that we work with on creative side, Eric Burdick, really smart creative dude. He's done a lot of brands. He kind of looked at it and he's like, REA, real estate kind of RIA. And like next thing you know, he's like, oh my God, what do all these kind of like insurance, boring, like da companies do? They humanize them. They give them a spokesperson, like somebody. So there's like Flo at Progressive, Jake from State Farm, right? Like all these people. So he goes, his idea was, hey, we're gonna create a person called Ria. Like her name will be Ria, but it stood for REA, was real estate accounting. They loved it. They were like, this could be so cool. It could give us a fresh look. Like we could do so much with this.
I love that.
The minute we got going, like the ideas have just flown off. I mean, I've got content ideas lined up for months of ways that we can use her, but now she's kind of all over the website, and people are starting to like recognize that as Rhea, right? This is this
Right.
person, Rhea. So it's super cool. And again, point being, right? The concept exists, right? But what we do and the content that we create and everything that we've done with Rhea is going to be different than a Flow, than a Jake from State Farm. And they all have their own things, right? Like Jake from State Farm, their ads and whatnot are different from a Flow at Progressive, which is different from the disaster guy, right? They all have these spokespeople, but they're different. And that's what we said. The concept may be used, but the innovation and the ads and the things that we create with Rhea will be different.
Absolutely. I really love that idea. That's great.
Yeah, it was awesome. We're really happy with this one. It's been fun.
Yes, definitely. Well, digging into your podcast a little bit, how do you leverage your podcast to promote effective leadership?
I think honestly, the podcast is one of the craziest things ever. Like, I think it just does it itself. I go into that trying to just have, it's almost like, because I get intro to people that want to come on, and like again, I ask my network and leverage those people as well. But it's really crazy how I was doing it as like a passion project, and I just wanted to like continue having fun conversations, bring value to people, get some of my kind of visibility out there. And honestly, I've gotten more like compliments of people talking and like saying, "Hey, like I love this snippet, I love that snippet." And the people that come on, like we're just having a conversation. You know what I mean? I'm not sitting here making it like super structured. There's no script, we just talk. And I'll ask them, like you said, there's some in the beginning, I do this little lightning round of like, favorite social media, least favorite social, whatever. But outside of that, we're just talking business, we're talking leadership, we're talking marketing ideas and whatever their company does. And it's just, again, to me, it's more relatable because it's very real. It's in real time. I don't really do any edits. It's just who we are and who these people are.
I love that. Raw and authentic. So, when you're thinking about your team and making decisions, what kind of factors do you consider when you go about
Yeah. So for me, as far as team and people go, I am like the hugest advocate of knowing what you don't know and leaning into people. Like, I'm not going to make a decision on something that I really am not that, knowledgeable in. I'm not going to hire somebody that does the same thing as I do. Like, I'm like I said, a huge proponent of, if there's gaps in my team, I want to go hire those. I don't want to hire like 3 more of me. That's not how I grow and scale. The other piece, once you have the team, I'm not going to sit here and make all the decisions just because I'm the CEO or the founder or whatever. I hired people, or we work with people because they're good at what they do. So I have to let them do their job and let them do their thing.
Yeah,
And
give them autonomy.
yeah, but also it comes with that, and I think it's a very important part for people's growth as individuals, is like, many people oftentimes want more of an opportunity. They want to be able to do their job and take credit for it. I'm happy to do that. I will always put my people on a pedestal and be like, this was such a great idea by, again, whether it's Bert or Christian or Hannah, or you guys are great. I want you to take that credit. But you're also going to be responsible if a client doesn't like something or that something goes wrong, right? And it's not to be thrown under the bus. It's all about credit and accountability. Credit, you're also going to be accountable, right? So like, and I feel the same way about myself and everything else. So I think that's a very important thing, because it kind of makes you grow up too in terms of being a professional. There's oftentimes, and I've seen it, especially in this day and age, like younger people, they're just like, oh no, I'm just a cog in a wheel. Here's my thing, and that's it. They don't want to be on camera. They don't want to be client facing. They don't want to take that responsibility. They're just there to do their work. If it's good or bad, their manager will deal with it, right? Well, you don't become a manager who doesn't become a director, who doesn't become a VP without starting to take credibility early and take responsibility early, right? So that's always been a huge thing for me, is like, listen, I want you to be as involved and as I am with the client or with the work or whatever. But as much as you're going to take credit for that and be able to stand on your business when it's your turn, you're also going to take that accountability if something goes wrong.
Yeah, that's an excellent point for sure. With things moving so fast and having employee work and just being so busy, what are some strategies that you employ to avoid burnout and maintain productivity across your team?
That is a super tough one,
Yeah.
especially like for myself as the founding my company. I can tell you right now, I've had burnout. It happens. Like I just simply because I will get up in the morning and the whole work from home thing. I could talk about that for hours, but I started working from home before COVID. I was living here in Arizona in Scottsdale while I still had my role in Silicon Valley. And what was funny is I realized very early on that I would sit there from 7 a.m. until 7 p.m. and barely even realize that like I didn't even eat because I'm just going, going, going. I'm in my own home. Like go grab a drink, like water, whatever. But I'm right back to the computer. It's very easy. Nobody's bothering me. I'm putting in 12 hours of work a day easily and didn't have a commute, didn't have people coming over and talking to me, didn't have well, as much as it was good for productivity, yes, it burned me out. So my biggest thing now is that I will always, if I have to get on a call with somebody, it's just a call. We're just checking in. I don't need any data in front of me. I don't need Google. I always get up and go take that call walking. Like go walk a mile, around the block, whatever it is. But I take that call away from my desk, out of my place. Unfortunately, a lot of people want FaceTimes and things like that, and I try to ask, and I tell them all the time, I'm like, not being respectful. I'm just asking. Like, I really like to kind of walk when I'm doing helps me think, helps me get away from my desk. Like, and most of the time, people are cool with it. But so if you can do that, that's one thing. The other thing is just to book blocks of time for you to go, grab a bite, take a walk, whatever that looks like. But it's really important because otherwise, to your point, it's not sometimes not necessarily burnout. It's the whole like productivity and creativity part. If you don't clear your mind and you get stuck and then you're in a vacuum and then like you said, you're just kind of I don't think you do as good a work as you could.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, kind of building off of that, I feel like you are involved in so many things. You have your social channels, you have your podcast, you have your company. What are some of the ways that you go about like continuous skill development?
I think part of that I made a kind of commit to myself this year that I want to go to at least like one conference or summit or something per quarter. I'm not as great. Like I'll try to like listen to some podcasts or this and that, or maybe watch some YouTube here and there. But again, most of the time it's not getting my undivided attention. I'm like doing something else. I'm at the gym. I think for me, not only are like summits and conferences really important from a networking perspective, but when you're there to actually like shut off, don't try and do work. Don't try and like be answering emails and doing presentations while you're there. Shut off, take a journal with you, like or a notebook, whatever, and sit there and attend the conference. Go to all the sessions, go to the breakouts, try to meet the people that are giving the presentations or they're talking. Give it your undivided attention. I promise you there will be a lot of nuggets and a lot of value that comes from it. It's so funny because when you're working in like corporate and you're doing these events or you're kind of it's the always kind of an eye roll of those conferences and those summits are you get what you give. If you're just there kind of rolling your eyes on your phone, like not really caring, then yeah, it won't be great and it'll just be another event that you didn't care to be at. If you actually go and like sit and listen and participate and do as much as possible, I promise you they're worth it. And I think that's kind of my thing from a development standpoint, even with my team. Like one of them can come to me and say, hey, there's a social media conference or this social media summit or I'm happy to pay for it. I'm happy for the business to pay for it. And I think everybody should go to their managers, go to their directors if you work at like a larger company or even just a medium-sized company, and just say, hey, like part of why I came here, part of why I'm here is that I want to learn and grow, et cetera. Like, would you be willing to pay for this? It's like extended education. I can bring back, I can do a report on it for the business. Like, Colin, even though uh I'm strictly focused on doing our social media channels, like it's a marketing conference, so maybe I could give some other ideas back. Like, great. So now I got somebody that's going to go attend this conference and find out new things and bring them back to me. Well worth the money, right? So both as leaders and as employees, I think that's something that should be an open conversation. Like, you as a leader should offer those to your employees, and then employees shouldn't be afraid to ask for those opportunities.
Yeah, definitely. That's a really good point. And it's very advantageous to attend those. And I agree with you, like the multitasking. It's just, make the most of your time while you're there. Why else would you go? You know? So I guess one of my last questions for you is, what do you want your leadership legacy to look like?
When I think about like the legacy as a leader, I ultimately just want, it's not like, oh, I want to be a people pleaser or whatever. I just always want people to feel like I've helped them. Right. So like, Colin is awesome. He helped me get to here, help me do this. I take so much pride in being able to just help other people. And it does not even,
You do.
yeah, it doesn't have to be business. I just really want to see other people succeed and be, happy, successful, that whole thing. So if that's what people remember you as, like, oh my God, Colin's like the ultimate networker. He was so great. Like, he helped me get this, helped me do that. That's awesome. But ultimately, when it comes to like kind of more of the, pride and legacy thing, I think it's more about what was my legacy as overall body of work and like what did I do over my time, right? Was I impactful? Was I helpful? Did I make somebody successful? It's more about that than it is anything else. I know some people are like, oh, I want to be Forbes 30 under 30. I want to make it to the Midas list. I don't have any goals like that. I just ultimately, for me, I want to feel good about what I do, and I want other people to feel good about what I've done for them.
And I think that's something that is a strong suit of yours, just from, following your content, knowing you, like, you're always willing to lend a hand and help other people. And it's something that's recognizable about you, even if you don't know you too well. And I think that that's a great quality to possess.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm hoping that's one that people associate me with at least.
Yeah, definitely. Well,
For
Colin,
sure.
it has been so great to have you on, and I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. No, it's been awesome to see your podcast grow and your business as well. Super impressive. Hopefully, if I'm ever out your way, we'll catch up. And obviously, if you're out, let us know.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thanks for.
Good. Thank you.
All right.